There are a lot of reasons for growing food plots for wildlife. First of all, they're fun and a great way to enjoy the outdoors in the off-season. Food plots can be used to enrich the soil if approached properly, which could also increase the value of the property. But the reason most people grow food plots is to increase the nutritional plane for the white-tailed deer. And superior nutrition, 365 days a year, over time, when coupled with a great age structure and a healthy herd, can create magic. I'm out rattling on this crisp fall morning when I rattled this buck up. Rattling is one of my favorite ways to hunt, and when you have a great age structure with lots of mature bucks, 4 years old or older, coupled with a tight age structure, it's an awesome way to spend a day in the woods. This particular buck may only be 30 yards away from me right now, and he's slowly making his way downwind to try to find the fight. There's a lot of old wives' tales about rattling bucks. For example, they always come from downwind. I find that they come from wherever they are, and sometimes they'll work their way downwind or not. Some bucks come and hang around for a while, especially if there's more than one. You might see 2 or 3 bucks and they meet up with each other and they may spend 15, 20, 30 minutes around you. Then others come in very quickly and sneak right off. I've also heard people say things like, the big bucks always come in slowly and take a long time. Heck, I've seen them come running in so fast there's no time to get ready. Generally, if I'm moving through the woods rattling, I never stay in a place more than 30 minutes, and it's usually more like 15 minutes, and then I move on. If a buck's going to come, they come quickly. What a handsome scene, though. This buck's on red alert. You can see the smoke coming out of his mouth. Beautiful. This particular buck I rattled up. When I first started rattling, I heard a terrible commotion over to my right, and come to find out this buck and another buck had gotten into a fight. Unfortunately, I found this buck dead after the season, and I have every reason to believe that maybe this buck right here coming up, this one might have killed him, and frankly, he may have killed him that particular day. I'm not sure, but for sure the other buck's dead now. This is also a scene you often see when you're rattling. The buck comes up, it creates a window where you can see him. He looks and sees me sitting down by the tree. He doesn't like the scene at all. Off he goes. Beautiful buck. Double fork twos, big old drop tine. Handsome 4-year-old. And off he goes. I'm in a privileged position to get to spend almost every day on the farm. This deer we saw numerous times during the summer when he was in velvet. Got lots and lots of pictures of him. But once he shed his velvet, this was the only time he was seen all season. Beautiful buck, probably in the mid-180s. He was very heavy. You can't really tell it. This is probably 150 yards away, but he had a lot of mass. Fork G2 on his right, lots of points. And again, that's the only time I saw him. There's lots of bucks through the season that we saw during the summer but never found during the hunting season. And how about this 4-year-old? Magnificent in every way. Double fork twos, just starting to come into the prime of his life. As a 3-year-old, he had 1 fork. I happened to find that shed and he had a 25-inch main beam. It's the main beams on this deer that give him such a terrific looking frame. One of the questions I frequently hear around hunting circles is, at what age does a buck have his best rack for harvest? I look at it differently. In a well-managed herd where most of the bucks are allowed to mature, if a buck gets you super excited, then I think you should hunt him. 1 buck doesn't make or break the herd in the big picture. With all that said, for these Louisiana bucks, I tend to think they peak at 6 or 7 years old. There are plenty of exceptions to that, but that's the direction we shoot for. We try not to take any of the trophies before 6. Which gets me pretty darn excited when I see a 4-year-old like this one. It's hard not to imagine his potential. He probably made a 10 or 15-inch jump from 3 to 4, and we've seen plenty of bucks make jumps that big or bigger between 4 and 5 and older. Then, again, some bucks don't ever change that much after 4. It's impossible to predict. What I know is that I like what I see in this buck, and I consider it a great privilege just to get the opportunity to see what might happen with him and enjoy the scene. What avid deer hunter wouldn't enjoy spending a day in the field getting to watch a scene like this unfold. I know I certainly do. It's the kind of stuff I wake up in the mornings for. There's a fantastic 5-year-old. I mentioned in reference to the last buck that he made a 10 to 15 inch jump from 3 to 4 years old. This buck may have added 15 to 20 inches, maybe more, from 4 to 5. He added that giant flyer that you see there with the kicker, and a fork or two, with his overall frame getting bigger as well. A buck like this would be pretty darn tough to score on the hoof with all that non-typical stuff, but I'd guess he's probably in the mid-190s. His frame's big enough, got lots of points and non-typical features. No matter the score, he's mighty darn handsome. You can also see where his body is bigger and more blocky than the 4-year-old we were just looking at. Look how he dwarfs that doe and fawn right there. I don't know if this buck is in his prime yet, but he's getting mighty darn close. Here's another great reason to let the better bucks age. Any question as to what the outcome is going to be here? A lot of people talk about culling inferior deer to improve a deer herd. I think far more important than the deer you remove from a herd are the ones you leave behind. That makes me pretty darn comfortable swinging for the fence on a deer like this, giving him another year and seeing what will happen. And also, I know what's going to happen right here. Beyond all that, once again, what a gorgeous scene. You got a trophy whitetail, beautiful scene in the background, and he's chasing a hot doe. Fun day on the ranch. We've looked at bucks that were 3, 4, and 5 years old so far. Now, let's look at a 6-year-old. Any question that he's matured? Compare his body features to the other bucks in this video. I believe that this buck is a 6-year-old, more so because I saw him last year when he was a symmetrical 12-point. And I can compare the body that he had last year to the body that he has this year. If he's not a 6-year-old, he might be a 7-year-old, but I still tend to think he's 6. I think it's next to impossible to age bucks on a hoof if you don't really know them. You can get close, and if you know your deer really well, you can be fairly accurate 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, maybe even 6. After that, it's anybody's guess, unless you know the specific deer. Also, once you've harvested a deer, I can tell you from experience that aging them by the teeth just doesn't work. It's accurate again, 1, 2, and 3, but I've seen deer be off 2, 3, even 4 years or more from tooth wear. So there is no precise way. Even sending the teeth into the lab we find to be inaccurate. Usually within a year, but still, once again, not that accurate. What aging really boils down to is the same principle for most management decisions, and that is, know thy herd. If you spend time with your deer and with your habitat and you're keenly observant, you're far better prepared to make most of the many management decisions that arise. Now, back to this buck. He's a pretty handsome fella, don't you think? Spectacular. You may have noticed what appeared to be an abscess in his jaw, in his lower jaw. It was swollen. The good news is, by the end of the season, it was gone. While I elected not to shoot this buck this year, I have walked countless miles looking for his sheds with no luck. I'm going to keep trying. I'd really like to find them. There was a lot of discussion about what this buck might score. And I suppose the first answer is, who cares? As an effort to improve our field judging, though, we like to compare sheds or harvested deer to what our estimates were from the trail cam pictures and from video we may get. We find that we consistently underscore these Louisiana bucks. There's a couple of reasons for that. First is their body size. This buck right here probably weighs 250 pounds, maybe more. We've taken deer from the farm that were as much as 275 pounds. The big bodies continually throw us off. Secondly, the antler mass is usually much more than we think, which makes the overall rack look bigger. All that said, our best guess is that this buck is in the high 190s to maybe a bit over 200. What's your guess? What do you think he might score? So I hope you've enjoyed this peek at a few of the bucks from our Louisiana farm. There were several other top-end bucks of this caliber that we simply never saw this year. We have trail camera pictures of them, but once they shed their velvet, they never came to the food plots. We never saw them in the woods, couldn't rattle them up. We simply never saw them. And so, as we watch the video of this guy walking off, knowing the bucks have shed their antlers, it's mid-February now as I do this video, we're going to let this vision burn in our brain. Let it inspire us to go plant the food plots, manage the habitat, and do all the things that we like to do, all while dreaming of what next year may bring.